to another High Exclusive. My name is Dima and I'm here at Cinnamon Live today to be sitting down to have a conversation with a distinguished gentleman, Mr. Simon Bittlestone, who is the 91st elected CIMA President and the Chair of the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants representing AICPA and CIMA. Welcome, Simon, to the show.
Thank you, Dima. Great to be here.
It's a pleasure having you on the show as well. Now, you come to the show with a vast body of experience, both in the private companies and public companies in the US, UK, and the Asian sector as well. So coming down to Sri Lanka and as the president of the CIMA and the chair of the association, what is your primary focus for the profession as you visit Sri Lanka?
Look, I think we live in such uncertain, but also times full of opportunity. I think for the profession, my view is that we're needed more than we've ever been. Trust is not taken for granted. I think we can see geopolitically, but also between businesses and consumers, trust is a battleground, and that is what we stand for as accountants. So that is extremely important. But in addition, we also stand for positive change, for transparency and for growth. And for me, the two massive trends in finance and frankly more broadly in business, I think the first we see is all around the adoption of technology. That is changing business models and will continue to do so, particularly of course with the advent of AI, Gen AI, and the impact that's going to have. So a lot of what I'm doing and a lot of the conversations I have with members, with corporations, with academics is all around how finance and business can adapt and adopt technologies such as AI, both to improve efficiency but also make better decisions, develop more impactful strategies, investment business cases. So that's one area. I think the other area that's also a real challenge for the finance community is the topic of sustainability. Obviously, this also comes with differing views globally, and I think, frankly, differing approaches based on the scale of the business. So there's a lot that we're doing as an organisation, and I think that the finance community have to do to help businesses approach sustainability, both reporting, but also the transformation of business models.
So now you've touched on the topics that I wanted to ask you as well. Now the second question, AI is a topic that everybody is talking about. Like, it's a hot topic and AI has got a strong hold in all fields and all walks. So when it comes to finance and accounting, how do you see AI specifically shaping the future of the industry?
We tend to, this is an offset thing, but we tend to underestimate the impact of technologies in the longer term while overestimating it in the short term. I think we are seeing at the moment a period of overestimating that initial impact, the hype around AI versus the actual practical impact of AI there is a difference there, which I fully accept. I think when you stand back, it's difficult not to see AI as being very fundamental for the evolution of humankind, not even just as it's sometimes referred to as the next industrial revolution. It's going to have an absolutely enormous impact on how we operate, live, engage with each other, well beyond just businesses and finance functions. For businesses, I think consequently, it will define winners and losers over a 3 to 5 year period. Maybe less so now, but it will define winners and losers. So the message there is you have to adopt it, you have to start trialing it. There's lots of different providers out there now, lots of different models, lots of different technologies, but generally speaking, whether it's driving efficiencies, improving customer service, developing new and interesting strategies, AI can already have an impact. I think for finance, a big challenge for us is helping our members to retrain, relearn, and to see AI as a co-worker. And I think, interestingly, that's particularly challenging for some of our longer-term members who have perhaps not developed their accounting qualifications in the digital savvy era even, or even those who have. Gen AI is such a step change in that a lot of what we're doing is supporting them to retrain and to understand what you can do with AI, because invariably AI will replace somewhere between 20 and 40% of finance roles, I suspect, in the next 5 years, but it will create a lot more. And that's about moving up the value chain, doing more strategic roles, doing more performance roles, doing more communication-based roles. So the skill set and the tools and techniques that we provide have to change with it.
Do you see training and retraining as a challenge?
I think it is a challenge. I think, I think it's a huge opportunity, of course, as well, though. So with training and retraining, it gives you the chance to do new and more interesting things. And frankly, most of the time, I think for finance professionals, that's very much what drives them. The opportunity to add more value to the business, to move up the value chain. But, we all have busy jobs, busy lives. It takes discipline and time to say to yourself, no, I'm going to retrain. I'm going to continue to invest in my personal development. I mean, I personally did this last year. I studied our new course with Side Business School around focus for executives, all around understanding sustainability and ESG, and I got a huge amount back from that. But you still have to find the time to do it, and you still have to discipline yourself. Going back to school equivalently was a shock. It's a challenge, but you get a huge amount out, and so I think it's a challenge and an opportunity.
Coming into your area of newly learned expertise now, ESG, it's a woke era. Everybody is very aware, so everybody's talking about the particular ethics and the sustainability of business. So incorporating ESG into a business, and how do you think the financial professionals can integrate sustainability into their corporate strategy?
I think there's two things. So I think this is a moment for us as a profession that comes around very, very rarely, where we essentially redefine our remit. We must own ESG. That is our challenge to the finance professional out there. And I think there's two things that we can really do to make a difference. The first goes without saying, transparency and the reporting piece. So the ISSB was formed only, I think, within the last 5 years. They have a huge challenge on their hands to develop consistent standards in different industries globally for sustainability. A huge, huge challenge. It's our job as accountants to support that, to develop the reporting frameworks, and to ensure there's transparency in what businesses are reporting to the public. But I would say that is actually the smaller piece of what accountants can do. It's extremely important, but particularly the management accountant, there's a bigger piece here. Firms are going to have to fundamentally change their business models to actually adapt and to drive the impact that's required to achieve sustainability. So rather than just reporting, to actually change how they operate in order to be sustainable. And that is where I think the management accountant can play an enormously important role. Develop the model of the business, help to understand how to employ the company's capital in order to shift business model to one that is sustainable, net zero, and achieve the ESG targets. The action piece, for me, is easily the biggest value that we can create and deliver in this space.
Now, Simon, let's talk about the CIMA representation in Sri Lanka and how it's equipping the members in Sri Lanka first to navigate the digital transformation, and on global terms as well after.
Well, I mean, first point to make, we are hugely proud of the membership base in Sri Lanka. I think it's the next largest outside of UK and Ireland, and we've been equipping members here for over 60 years now, or I think exactly 60 years. So it's something that we take really seriously. It's a very, very important thing for us as an organisation. In terms of what we're doing, multiple things. Future of Finance 2.0 Thought Leadership, we released that very recently. That contains a huge amount of research into the trends affecting finance going forward, and quite a lot of practical support for members on how to adapt to those, how to reskill, retrain, as we were talking about, and face these sort of very uncertain times. Alongside that, we run a series of highly interactive programs called Engage, where we're bringing together industry leaders, academics, members to try to stimulate conversation and networking, which is really key. So this is probably the third one. So for us, we're not just a body that supports members when it comes to thought leadership and research and continuous learning, but we recognise the value of the network we provide. We're in over 190 countries. We have members all over the world, and that global network provides members with a huge amount of support as well. So we are passionately supportive of the membership base in Sri Lanka and globally, and we'll continue to do everything we can to help equip them for the uncertain times of the future.
Now, anything new coming in is always a challenge. So, with the coming years, what are the biggest challenges that you see the Sri Lankan professionals will be facing?
So I think, look, there's the global background of uncertainty. What I think is in particularly challenging in Sri Lanka, from my understanding, is, of course, there is a very high level of debt in Sri Lanka. You've come off the back of a really challenging economic time. It was fantastic to see that last year, I believe you achieved 6% growth, and which, incidentally, may I add, would be hugely impressive if the UK could get anywhere near it. So this is still a real net positive. But there are two sides to that. So I think the first one is governance. I really do believe we were absolutely privileged to have Dr. Harshana, the Deputy Minister for Finance and Planning, join us at our convocation for new members yesterday. He gave a brilliant, insightful talk, but he focused in on the mandate that the government won through the approach around zero tolerance to corruption. And at the heart of what he was saying is that is about reform and reforming governance, transparency, openness. This is what accountants stand for. So I think there's a lot that the accounting world and our membership can do to support businesses in achieving that themselves, in achieving governance. The second area, growth. Growth is not an easy thing to come by. The mindset of the management accountant is not one of purely reporting, budgeting, the processes. It's one of supporting strategic business decisions, employing capital effectively to achieve growth, building business cases, communicating those to the organisation. So we see the management accountant as the beating heart of decision making in the business, which helps drive growth. Growth and governance are probably the two most important things, I believe, that challenges and opportunities that face Sri Lankan business ahead, and ones that I feel the CGMA and the broader accounting world can support with.
Okay. Now, you mentioned, well, we've had tough times and we are going upwards and onwards. So as an emerging market in Sri Lanka, how do you see the finances and the finance industry itself play a role in business resilience?
I think from Sri Lanka's perspective, it is hugely impressive to have come out of the crisis with the growth you have, and I can see that growth continuing. Clearly, there's a great opportunity to bring in more foreign direct investment, which will support that, and particularly with the level of government debt, that will really help. Business resilience, fundamentally they face, I think, challenges and opportunities in equal measure. The challenges, very, very uncertain markets. We've seen the changes in the tariffs position across the world. They face the challenge of growth in a market with still relatively high levels of inflation, although they are coming down, and the challenge of the backdrop of the government debt. I think for businesses, the resilience really does come down to the same points. The first is the governance piece. It is so critical to have solid corporate governance. That is the bedrock of managing risk in businesses effectively. And then I think the second piece is the performance management of the business. It's building a model that allows you to understand how you would respond in different scenarios. In uncertainty, none of us has a crystal ball. We can't see what's coming around the corner, but we can be prepared for any of a number of different scenarios. That is where the CGMA is uniquely equipped. Build the model, flex the different drivers, and have the answers for when those uncertain decisions come around the corner and management have to move quickly. That helps speed up the business control cycle and helps improve resilience for business.
Simon, now CIMA is a large body of professionals providing them a lot of support and guidance where not only finance is concerned. So beyond finance, how do you think CIMA is preparing professionals in leadership and executive roles as well?
So this is actually a really, really big challenge for our profession globally. When we look at the evolution of the finance professional We go back to the 60s, 70s, 80s, where really the finance focus, the professional was focused on almost the scorekeeper, the reporting piece. We look at it now, actually so much more is expected and so much more opportunity is on the table for finance professionals to go far, far beyond that. Driving decision making, leadership roles, broader than even just in finance, investment, planning, growth, all of the things that you would almost expect of a CEO these days. How are we supporting the leaders of the future? It starts from our professional qualification. So we've hugely adapted that over the years. Two main areas. The first is broadening the skill set and the experiences we're trying to achieve, rather than purely the deep technical accounting knowledge, which is of course still very valuable and important. We're broadening it out to provide broader understandings of leadership, of communication, of agile processes, of technology, an absolutely critical one. And these are all built now into the qualification syllabus itself, which is one area. The second area is actually in the how students learn and how they're tested. Our approach is to make that a lot more fluid, more bite-sized learning to support particularly Gen Alpha, Gen Z in terms of how they want to learn, but also more simulation-based and problem-solving based. That is a huge change actually in the approach of 20, 30 years ago, because it's critical problem-solving skills that make a huge difference in business today. And the simulation aspect and the case study equivalent aspect gives students the chance to test this before they're actually in those business scenarios and situations. So it really starts with the development of the fundamental development of the qualification itself.
So when it comes to expertise levels, I'm sure there are categories for different sectors of the world. So when it comes to Sri Lanka in particular, how do you cater to build the professional expertise of our Sri Lankan students?
So for this, so one of our challenges and opportunities, of course, as an organisation, is we have such huge global coverage. So I think one of the big things we can provide and bring is the opportunity for Sri Lankans to not only operate in Sri Lanka, but also actually to experience global markets. They have with the CIMA qualification, CGMA qualification, that is an opportunity to work anywhere in the world. So the first piece is the opportunity for international experience, which is key. I think the second piece is the work we do in country. So it goes far, far beyond simply taking the professional qualification, starting your first job, and that's the last you engage with the organisation. We're really active here. We're really active in the membership base, whether it's providing thought leadership, the opportunity to network at the brilliant events we run, or simply the access to the portal, a deep, deep portal of knowledge and experience. We're constantly looking to provide to ensure that there's both globally relevant material, but also Sri Lankan relevant material there.
Sounds good. Now, in closing, to all the financial professionals out there, the young financial professionals out there who are looking to future-proof their careers, what would you have to tell them?
You live and operate in really, really uncertain business times, but your experience and qualifications will never be more important and relevant than today. I think every business model will change in the next decade, and you can be at the heart of that, driving performance, adapting businesses for sustainability. It comes down to living the values, it comes down to continuing to learn and be curious, and particularly to adopting technologies such as AI and automation to add value. And keep pushing. You're the leaders of the future. You have a huge role to play, not only in Sri Lanka, but in the global economy.
Well, looking hopeful. Thank you, Simon, for sitting down and having this conversation with us.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for tuning in as well. Until we see you again with another high exclusive, take care and be safe.